Wouldn't know that.
I do know that. I'm in trouble.
The kid has a long time to do it. I'm just kidding.
You can got lots of stuff. Okay, everybody, thank you all for coming. My name is Dominique DeFries, and this is Erica Fanous, and we are the Kinney Economic Justice Coordinators. Before we get started, some of you got the sheets. At the bottom is a Slido account. We're going to try to do this for questions later on in the panel. Essentially, you go to the link or get the app, and you can write your questions. Maybe if like after the first comments you have a question, you can put it down, and then at the end we can go through those questions, and our panelists can answer those. So just a little bit about our panel. These are some wonderful, prominent community leaders, and we're coming together to discuss how economic justice has been pursued in the context of Memphis, and we're going to focus on how living wages and unions are an integral part of making Memphis a more economically just city. So Erica here is going to just introduce the panelists, and then we'll begin with some questions we had, and then you can ask your questions after.
Thank you all so much for coming. So our first panelist is Wendi Thomas. She's the founding editor of MLK 50, Justice Through Journalism, a year-long nonprofit reporting project about economic justice. A senior writing fellow for the Center for Community Change, Thomas is also a contributor for The Undefeated and the Christian Science Monitor. She's a 2016 Harvard Nieman Fellow, and from 2003 to 2014, she was a columnist at the Commercial Appeal. Previously, she was an editor at the Charlotte Observer, an editor and reporter at the Tennessean and Nashville, and a reporter at the Indianapolis Star. Earle J. Fisher is a pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church, the co-founder of the Memphis Grassroots Organizations Coalition, and a PhD candidate in communications at the University of Memphis. Reverend Fisher serves as an adjunct professor of the contemporary theology at Rhodes College. Ann Smith is the executive director of Workers Interfaith Network, an organization that is a movement of people of faith, low-wage workers, and workers' allies who educate and organize for justice in the workplace. They believe that every worker has a God-given dignity that must be respected. Margaret Cook has been a union member since her first job at Helmsley Hotels, where at 21 she was the youngest delegate in the New York Hotel and Motels Trade Council. While she was assistant program officer at CUNY Graduate Center in New York, she was active within the PSC CUNY Union, where she campaigned for greater wages and benefits for adjunct professors along with other issues. When Margaret joined the University of Memphis in 2016, one of her immediate goals during the first week of employment was to find a union to join in order to continue to participate and advocate for workers' rights. She holds a BA in English Literature from the City College of New York, and her graduate research involves the relevance of Black women's autobiographies in the early 20th century as activism against child labor.
Okay, so I'll begin with the first question. Could you all just tell us a little bit more about yourself and what type of work you are currently doing to make Memphis a more economically just city? Oh, and you can use the mics or not use the mics.
Oh, sorry, I'm not a big fan of microphones.
Oh, they're not.
Are they on or are they
Oh.
red?
Red button.
Red button. Oops.
There we go.
My name is Ann Smith. Like she said, I'm the executive director of Workers Interfaith Network. I'm also a 16-year member of United Campus Workers. I'm proud. Back when I was in Knoxville. At Workers Interfaith Network, we strive to educate. That's one of the big things we do. We educate people on living wage. We educate people on worker health and safety. There's a lot of people that are doing jobs that they are needing to do to help their families make ends meet, but according to OSHA regulations, their employees are not having to do it in a safe and effective way, and it's putting themselves at risk. And so we help educate workers so that they can know their own rights and take charge of what they are doing and the job that they are doing. We enjoy and like to try to educate the community on what's going on now, what is our history, and let them learn about what the living wage is and how us changing it will make such huge impacts. And we strive to change policy in whatever way we can. Back in 2007, we, along with our community allies, helped bring a living wage ordinance to Memphis and Shelby County, which was huge. And the state overturned it, unfortunately, as the state does sometimes. And ever since, we've been fighting to try to win a living wage across the state of Tennessee.
Hi, as my intro said, I'm a longtime journalist, and I started the MLK 50 Justice Through Journalism project to remind Memphians and the nation at this time of what King came to Memphis for and what he died fighting for, and that's economic justice. I was determined not to see his legacy distilled into sound bites from his I Have a Dream speech, but to really amplify his message that called for a radical redistribution of political and economic power. And so if people say that they revere King, but they don't support unions or a living wage or other worker protections, they're lying. So yeah, I don't go around calling people liars, but I will point out the dissonance in what they're doing.
My name is Margaret Cook, and I'm currently the Vice President of the United Campus Workers Memphis Chapter. I have been a union member since I was 21 years old, like my bio said, and it is really the best tool of anti-poverty program in this country. Our mission at the UCW is to advance and defend the interests of all Tennessee higher education staff and faculty, as well as promoting solidarity, democracy, and advancing social and economic justice in our workplaces and our communities. No one who works a full-time job should live in poverty, and that is one of the main reasons why I'm a lifelong union member.
I do feel compelled to use this mic, even though it's like two of them, but my sisters use this one, so you know, in the churches that I frequent, they would say that this is the hot mic, so you just stick with it. Again, I'm Pastor Earle Fisher, and I'm honored to be here with so many of you who are familiar faces, and definitely to share this wonderful platform with my beloved sisters who I frequent certain spaces with, usually in the name of justice, and then every now and then just to hang out and kick it. But I approach this, I guess, situation and circumstance of economic injustice from a personal standpoint on at least three fronts. So first and foremost, I'm a pastor, and contrary to popular belief, most pastors do not pastor mega churches. Most pastors, like myself, are overworked and underpaid. I've even said to my congregation on several occasions, I'm out advocating for a living wage, and if you do the math in terms of the number of hours that I work and the amount of money I'm getting paid by my congregation, I don't make a living wage. But again, my congregation is not a corporation like McDonald's or Walmart that has, you know, an endless supply of what seems like money and still doesn't pay their workers what they're worth. Secondly, I approach this as an adjunct. And an adjunct professor, and many of you have done the research, is another profession that is overworked and underpaid. And so a lot of times, to supplement for my pastoral income or lack thereof, I'm teaching 3 and 4 or 5 classes at 2 or 3 or 4 institutions. I didn't put this in my bio, but I've taught at just about every institution of higher education in the city with the exception of University of Memphis. Even in West Memphis at Arkansas State University, Mid-South Campus. And I do that a lot of times to try to supplement income, but adjuncts, you know, we're working just as hard, if not harder than many of the full-time faculty, and still paid substantially less. Not only am I a pastor and an adjunct professor, I'm an activist, and if you know anything about activism, you are overworked and underpaid, or not paid at all, right? And so I approach this economic justice discussion from that particular standpoint. I am unapologetically pro-labor. I've stood in solidarity with many of the labor unions in the city from UCW, CAW, IBEW, whatever else you can think of as an acronym that ends in W2. And so I just fundamentally believe what my sister Margaret and so many others have said, people should not have to work 3 and 4 jobs just to feed a particular family. And lastly, I recently wrote something on a wonderful website called MLK50.com, Justice and Journalism. I know this brilliant sister who's been doing some brilliant work, and every now and then she lets me drop a couple of nuggets on there. And so on MLK Day, echoing some of the points of Wendi earlier, I wrote an article entitled, "Where Have We Gone From There?" And not only was I trying to reclaim the Prophet King, or what one documentary would call Citizen King, I was also trying to make some recommendations on how we can move in this particular moment at the local and state level to try to transition us out of this economic injustice. So if you ever have a chance, go to MLK50.com, read all of the stuff on there, and then make sure you read Where Have We Gone From There. Wendi put my check in the mail, thanks.
But that's your mic, right? It's supposed to, we don't share this one, I'll share that one.
Sometimes it feels like there is an impenetrable wall between city council, representatives, corporations, and residents in grassroots movements. Change seems to be made in an insular bubble without the input of the entire Memphis community. What strategies have you found effective and ineffective in creating change? And what strategies have been effective in shaping laws and policies presented by the Memphis government?
I think the best strategy that you can find is collective action. I mean, if for us, we run on an interfaith model, so we work with and love to reach out to faith communities around Memphis. There are over 4,000 faith communities in Memphis alone. We acknowledge that every person has a God-given right to a living wage and a safe and healthy work environment. And if we can come together as a community of all faiths and all backgrounds, and with all the labor unions that Pastor Earle was talking about, then we can come together as a whole for human rights, right? When we talk about economic justice, we're talking about human rights. Wendi had said earlier, no person, as Margaret said, no person should work a full-time job and still not be able to make ends meet. I am the daughter of a mother who worked 3 jobs to raise 4 kids by herself. And that was with a college education. And no person should ever have to do that just to put food on their table. And if we can come together in a collective way by showing force, then we can get some change. We also talk with our city council people and our county commissioners, because they're the ones that are doing the voting. We encourage that we can put things out to a citizen vote, right? Because these people that are elected officials are supposed to be representing the people in their district, right? But as we know, they don't always do that. So if we can get more things out for people to vote on their own, then it'd be interesting to see what kind of change can be made. And that is true on, in my opinion, on the state level as well.
Because I'm a new resident of Memphis. I moved here about 2 years ago. And I have to admit, I've been pretty disgusted by the cronyism and the greed of Memphis's as well as Tennessee's politicians. It's just open greed. And when you think about the outsourcing plan to cause custodians and other physical plant workers to lose their jobs at higher education institutions across the state, I'm so thankful that I belong to a union like the UCW that took this fight on, and through mass organization and mass action and emails and, showing up. And I mean, to this day, we're still fighting that fight because University of Memphis and Southwest, there has been no public declaration that they will opt out of this outsourcing scheme by the governor. So the only way to change it is mass action. You have to be a part of change in order for things to change. I can sit at home and watch the news